Okay, now we're recording. All right, fine. Okay, so here we go. I forgot to do that. Okay, then I'm going to share my screen. And when y'all watch this, I'm really excited about this. So when y'all watch it at home, it actually shows me talking and with the PowerPoint. You get the PowerPoint right there, me talking, like the ones like chapter 15, but I'm in the corner going to be talking about it. Okay, so I'm just saying I already got my camera where I want it, where y'all can actually see me do my thing and tell my jump around, be stupid or whatever. Maybe that'll keep y'all awake when y'all looking at it. Okay, all right. This is one of my favorite chapters, and like I said, I've been doing teaching that major biology, and I have to cover things like the fungi that I don't really know anything about. Never had a fungi class, okay? But I feel very comfortable in this chapter. This is one of my favorite chapters in the book. This is also one of the fields that I had done some of my research in. The only thing I need to do is get that screen across the top to go away. I'm scared. I'm not sure how to do that. How to get that, the little bars up there going. Okay, but we got a red light on, so we are recording. Yeah, there we go. There's a little red light. Tell me we record. Okay, guys, this is our first one we're trying, and maybe next week I'll have y'all can log in and watch it. And I told you I got a great group here. Got about 7 or 8 students, right? We got a nice little group, about 20 of y'all attending each Monday, 9 o'clock Monday and 9 o'clock Wednesday. But this is one of my favorite chapters of the book, for real, on the endocrine system. Okay. Okay, so and if you got your short answer questions, which I forgot to hand out. Oh my gosh, I don't think I give you all these, did I? Okay, would you hand them out, Melissa? I appreciate it. Would you just run around and just give everybody one of those so I can go and get started? So these are the questions. I may give y'all 15 or did I not? And she's always submitted or printed off. That's all. But anyway, one of my favorite questions about the endocrine system is what the heck's about this? So the very first question on my list for 16 is why do we have an endocrine system? So I'm going to address that one. And question 2 is going to be addressed here pretty quick. But let me just kind of lay it out to you here real quick. So the endocrine system then, title of our chapter, are a set of glands. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you so much. Are a set of glands that secrete a hormone. Okay. Now, I'm going to do something really ugly. This almost should be, I could be fired for this. We're going to talk about what we learned last time. Oh my gosh, didn't know that word. So what's a gland? Anybody? Anybody remember this? This is what words do when y'all take that final nursing exam or take the final exam. Y'all gonna have a degree in nursing without a license because y'all got to take the final exam on this stuff, right? So remember, a gland is a specialized epithelial tissue that produces a chemical, right? Remember that? Okay, remember that? We talked about that, right? Remember don't make me cuss. Remember our 4 types of tissues. Remember what? Muscle, nerve, connective, and epithelium. The epithelium lines and covers everything. Okay, so our glands are modified epithelium tissue that make a product. Okay, now I know y'all remember this because we covered this last semester in AP 1. There are 2 types of glands. Remember, exocrine glands and endocrine glands. Okay, right. So let's go back over that. Exocrine glands make a product that goes through a tube or duct. Remember, to an open surface, to the outside of an open tube, like all of our salivary glands, all the lubricating glands down our digestive tract, down our respiratory tract, mucus. Okay, all the stuff coming out of the female reproductive tract. All these things are exocrine. Sweat's a good example too, because it squirts through a tube to an open surface. Okay. Now here's the punchline. Exocrine glands never ever make hormones. Okay, everybody with me? The endocrine glands are the ones that make hormones. Okay, and so endocrine glands, take a look, are going to be a group of cells that make a product called a hormone, which in this case is a triangle, little triangle, right? Okay, it's put in the bloodstream, travels through the bloodstream to the heart, gets pumped to a target organ, goes through a capillary bed, goes out and goes to a target organ or structure, binds to it, and makes it do something that would not normally do, or make it not do something it would normally do. So it alters it, either making it do something it would not normally do, or making it not stop doing something. Okay, now look, I told y'all before about masters in reproductive physiology. Okay, so I'm going to use reproductive examples here. So if I come and freak somebody out, y'all need to go up. Y'all all gonna be nurses. Y'all need to be able to talk about this thing, right? Okay, we got to be mature about this. In my opinion, probably the most commonly understood, talked about hormonal system is the classic female 28-day menstrual cycle, right? But let me give you something crazy if you didn't know this. on a day 13 of your 28-day cycle, meaning day 1, the day you start your period. If you count out to the 13th day, your pituitary gland releases a hormone called LH. LH is going to leave your pituitary gland, go all the way down to your ovaries, and make them ovulate the next day. Is that not the coolest thing ever? So luteinizing hormone is determined to swell or rupture, actually makes you ovulate the next day. And for about 80% effectively, if you don't have sex on that day, you're not going to get pregnant. And the birth control pill actually prevents that from happening. It tells the brain you're pregnant, so you don't release LH on the 14th day. So we learned pretty practical stuff here today, right? 75-80% of the women in America at some point take birth control pills, right? And you just learned out how they work, right? Okay, another good example, let's do boys. How many of y'all maybe got a brother or been around a father, know somebody, know a male? You ever see them in the morning before they shave? They have hair all over their face a lot of times, right? Because when they're sleeping, their testicle makes testosterone. It leaves their testicle, goes in their bloodstream, goes up and leaves the bloodstream like this, goes to facial cells, binds to them and says, grow me some hair. Okay? I'll pick on Ashton since she's been out, right? Okay. Now, Ashton, I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty well bet that she don't have hair testicles, and she didn't have to shave this morning. Correct? Right. Okay. Now, how many of y'all got Aunt Sue that does have a hairy situation on her face? Y'all know that person? They have an adrenal gland problem. So we'll see later on in this chapter that the adrenal gland also makes sex hormones, and some women have to have electrolysis and stuff, right? Because they do have hair, have a beard. There's a family in South America that are called the wolf people, and they have a genetic problem with this, where they are furred boys and girls, have super thick beards and full body hair. Okay. And back when we had circuses and stuff, which now have gone away, they made a living as a carny being the wolf people. Okay. I mean, I hate these people, just like an NBA player makes $1 billion because they're what? 7 foot tall. These people were real hairy and made a living off of it. And I got no problem with you making a living off of any kind of, abnormality you might have in your body. Okay. And we'll see how that 7 foot is not normal. 7 foot is an abnormality we're talking about usually, right? Although, as Ashton knows, she's a basketball player. There are tall people, right? You take Shaquille O'Neal. Mama's tall, daddy's tall, he's tall. He is not, he doesn't have giantism. He just got big genes. Okay. He naturally got big genes. But there are other NBA players that have giantism. Okay. So it's a really fascinating chapter here, okay, to me. One of my favorites in the whole book. Okay, because it makes so much sense. Okay, so these hormones go to a target organ and alter them, make them do something they would not do, or stop doing something. Okay, is that good? Is that good one? Does that have sense? Okay, so once more, let's go back to always remember the basics. Estrogen glands squirt their product through a tube to an open surface, and they're never hormones. Hormones are only made by these endocrine glands, which are modified epithelium, that are put into the bloodstream and travel somewhere and make something happen. Okay. Now, that's a good quick overview, but I still didn't answer question 1. So why do we have an endocrine system? Because I do a lot of this in this AMP 2. So a lot of times we're going to ask questions in here that real common sense, like, why do I breathe? That's one of the questions coming up on the test. Why we breathe? And not because it feels good. I had somebody write that down on the test one time. That was -5. Okay. Okay, it does feel good to breathe sometimes, especially with the mask on, right? When you get to go home and get in the car and take it off. But I like to ask the basic stuff. So why do you think God did this? Why do you think God made this system of hormones when we had a perfectly good, did we not have a perfectly good nervous system that we just spent 5 chapters on and everyone talking about, right? Right? So let's review this second on the nervous system. The nervous system, if you remember, this is going back to something else. I'm jumping around. My PowerPoint's a little bit. Actually, let me go back. I'm jumping around too much. Okay, I thought I had a picture in here of the nervous system. I don't. Okay. So anyway, we'll go to this picture. How does the nervous system work? I want to pick up my arm, so I send an electrical impulse down my spinal cord, down a nerve, down the axon to a muscle release acetylcholine. It binds and I contract. The nervous system, remember, sends electrical impulses what? Down nerves, down neurons, right? To depolarize the cell sometimes, right? To have an action potential to do something. So why would God have another way to control the body, which is what our endocrine system is? I open it to questions. Somebody.
In nervous system, you have to think about it. You've got your endocrine system, that just does it on its own. Okay, that's actually, so I'll go with that. Thank you. Good job, Ashley. Okay, so it does have a little bit of what? Automatic, right? But remember, okay, I agree with you. But remember, there was a whole system, right, of autonomic nervous system, right?
They did housekeeping and all that. I think what she may be saying is also true, is it's a backup system. It's another way of doing it. So there is some redundancy here, because if you got only one way of the house and that's on fire, you're dead, right? So everybody has I hope you have two ways out of your house, like a window you can go out or back door. So a lot of times you'll read this chapter and they'll say this is some redundancy to have us another way to control it. But there's even a better reason. I've never read the book. Maybe I've heard the books allude to it. So I don't have many like great ideas, but I was actually teaching A&P at night one time at Oxford, this very lecture. And when I drove home, I was driving home and something just hit me by the time I turned, it basically got on I-55. And so try this out for science. And I've seen this, I did research it, this is true. The real reason we have an endocrine system is we need to tell the body to do big, broad things, big, broad stroke things, like take in sugar, chunk sugar out, speed up metabolism, slow down. And if we had a nerve going to every one of your 100 billion cells to tell you to eat sugar, you'd be the size of a freaking whale. Okay? In other words, it is anatomically not possible to send 20 nerves to every one of your 100 billion cells. You'd be the size of a whale. Okay, so here's my metaphor. Endocrine system is wireless cell phone. Okay? Nervous system is old landline. The old phone that's got the copper wire running your house from the line running down the road. Okay? And that works real good. It's real good stuff, right? But cell phones allow more people to be talking at the same time and not have a wire problem. So imagine this metaphor. If we didn't have cell phones and we didn't have the endocrine system, everybody pulls out here to the parking lot, gets out of the car now, they got a big old line of phone wire, copper wire. You get out and you plug your phone into this terminal at the car and you come to class. And we have little scoreboards over here because Melissa came in first. She has to leave last for all the wires to get tangled. We'd have little techno crews running around with little clippers for 5 people got all wired up with the wires to cut them all and reconnect. Okay? But you have to have your phone. So we know y'all cannot live without your phone. Okay, so there's no option here. We got to have our phone because y'all so important. You got to talk to people all the time, right? Like your boyfriend or ex-husband or whatever, or children or mom and daddy, drug dealer, whatever. Okay. That's how messed up our body would be if we had to have wires with every cell. So God made this endocrine system so that we can have about 20, 30 hormones that do big, broad stroke things. Like the most famous hormone other than estrogen and testosterone is probably what? Insulin. Insulin binds to every cell of your body and says, take sugar in, right, to eat. Glucagon tells the cells to chunk sugar out, stop eating. So we got to maintain these homeostatic mechanisms, right? Right? All these hormones are controlled by homeostatic mechanisms, and that keeps us going. But the real reason, answer to my first question, why we have an endocrine system, is it would be physically impossible to send a nerve to every cell in your body. But what does every cell in the body get a hold of? Blood from the cardiovascular system, right? With capillary beds and stuff. So we feed ourselves and we do nutrients to get rid of waste for the nervous system. So God throws chemical messengers in the blood, which are the hormones that tell our body what to do. Okay? So once you get the reason here, then this chapter can be broken into three parts. One, the introduction. Two, there are 2 ways hormones can work. There are 2 chemical ways hormones work. And then the rest of the chapter is just going through each gland and talking about the hormones it makes. So obviously on your multiple choice test, I'm going to have probably 10 or 20 points on that midterm on what does this hormone do? Matching, right? But short answer question, I want you to know the big picture stuff, okay? And so the second question here was, what's the difference between exocrine and endocrine? I've already answered that. And so now we're going to work on number 3. Describe in detail the differences in the mode of actions of the 2 types, these hydrophobic and hydrophilic hormones, okay? All right. Now, before we get into that, here's another little thing. Your book talks about hormones, go through the blood, affect distance targets. We have another couple of cells that are pretty cool. To make things even more complicated, we discovered that some chemicals are released that are hormones that don't go in the blood. They just alter the cells around the cell that makes them. So these are called paracrine cells, paracrine hormones. So there are some hormones that are made for the cells to produce, to tell the chemicals around them, the other cells around them to do something. And then we even see now that some chemicals are only secreted into the interstitial fluid, and they cause that same cell to do something. So some cells are making hormone-like chemicals that affect them. They release and it alters their receptors on the outside. So it's a lot very complicated. I'll give you another one that's usually mentioned here, a paracrine one, but how many of y'all familiar with the pheromones? Pheromones are chemicals that the animals specifically, and we do produce in our sweat, that will tell other organisms like, I don't like right here or come hither, okay? And if you ever had a female dog in heat, you know what I'm talking about, right? Every male dog within 20 miles will come and visit, okay? Because they smell it, and this is why the dogs mark their territory, why deers are marking their territory. You can even have, anybody, look, I love a woman that hunts, okay? How many of you girls are outdoorsmen? I had one of my favorite students had a four-wheel drive truck better than anybody else out in the parking lot. And she's still a big deer hunter. But you can go, well, you deer hunt, okay? So you can go to Walmart or to the warehouse and buy the urine from a female in estrus in heat and spray it and put that on your body. And the deer will not only not smell you, the males will come look for you, okay? They will come and try to breed you. Yeah, that's how he knows she's there. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? So if you want to hide yourself, you can buy that stuff. And there's been video of a guy, I seen a video of a guy fell asleep on a ground deer stand and got mauled by the deer. The male came in and didn't find the girl and was not happy and attacked him. Okay. So yeah, it makes deer a whole new sport where the deer kills you, right? Okay, when it's hunting, give them a rifle, let's try it. That makes it more fun, doesn't it? Let's give them a gun. So now I'll go ahead and just throw it out here a little bit. Well, they are human pheromones we discovered, but as y'all found out last chapter, our nose is not as good as dogs, right? So I don't think they're real big in attraction stuff. Okay, but I do believe that we give off chemicals that make people feel comfortable around us or not comfortable, right? Okay, I'll tell this real quick. It's a fun, then we'll dive into video. But I walked in class, where's my 30th year in Northwest? I walked in class for and come in and do this right here, and I'm just going to pretend like, oh, I don't like her. I don't know her. She went in my class last semester, right? I don't think, was she? Okay, you got a mask on. You got a mask. Okay, but let's just pretend I just first day last semester. I have walked in before, not like this person, and think this person is the same. Over here on this side of the room. Now, I've just done the introduction lecture. I don't know y'all dirt holes now, right? I mean, I didn't know you were just a child or anything like that. Why am I judging you in my mind? I think you may give up a pheromone that tells me you're bad. And you give me one that my body likes, right? Because I feel like it's a good person. And they come to find out this is the nicest person in the world, but especially she's out here keying my car. You know, she's the one that you suck your fat driving on my car, right? I'm listening to that. You would never do that. You know what I'm saying? We need to stop judging people, and I think there's some pheromones involved. Okay, now I'll tell one quick story and we move on. So I got this little girl one time who was a sweet person, but she was just a little bit homely. She could have had a makeover like I need a makeover, but she really wanted a boyfriend and could not find a boy in Northwest today. And she came to my office and told me this is very discouraging. And I'm like, dude, just keep praying and it's gonna work out. Okay, just hold on, don't do something stupid. So she listened to the radio and they were selling these colognes and perfumes for like $200 a bottle that had pheromones in them. So she bought the male attractive perfume. And she tells me I'm gonna wear it and I'll let you know how it goes. She wore that for 2 weeks and a strange girl came up to her and asked her out, and her best friend confessed to her love to her. I think they sent her the wrong one, but she threw stuff away, scared. But her best friend, like 4 years, come up and just confessed her love. It was a girl, by the way. Confessed her love to her. And it freaked her out. Okay, so I'm just saying, don't buy these hormones and stuff. Okay, it really messed this girl up. Okay, but I do think there may be some chemicals going on, right? Okay, how many of y'all, okay, just think about it. How many in high school remember the person that was everybody's best friend? Everybody liked, and it wasn't an attraction thing. It's just like everybody likes Bubba. Bubba's just super cool. And same way with this girl in high school, like everybody's friend, right? But really, she wouldn't date her. She wasn't sleeping with everybody. She just had that personality. Maybe it's not great personality. What if it's a chemical we're giving off? You ever bring somebody home and your dog hates them? That's a sign. You know, like you got this dog with every bark, like, you know, just saying. There may be something there. Just having a little fun with y'all there. All right, moving on. Okay, but there are pheromones. We know they exist, but our smell is not as good as that dog. Okay, so anyway, so moving on. So endocrine glands, got that, done that. Okay, here's a list of some. Let's get the picture here. Okay, here is Inviso naked boy with ovaries. Okay, so here are your endocrine glands. Okay, so we'll look at them real quick. The pituitary gland, the pineal gland up in the head, hypothalamus, thyroid, parathyroid, thymus, pancreas, adrenal gland. Now notice the adrenal has a cortex and medulla. Both of these make hormones. And then, of course, the testes in male makes the male sex hormones. And the ovaries make the female sex hormone. And we're going to find out something that you probably didn't know, that the adrenal cortex also makes male and female sex hormones. So if you have something go wrong with your adrenal gland, you may be very abnormal, okay? Now, I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm just saying normal would be normal. There is a normal, right? Then there are people that are not normal, okay? And they can't help that. And we as humans need to love everybody, okay? Our mantle in our church for 2 years has been love your neighbor as yourself, right? That's a good thing to kind of carry today, right? If you treat everybody you run into today like you treat yourself, this world will be a whole lot better place and a lot of problems disappear. Okay, so we're going to work our way through these. Probably not going to get through it today, but I'll get through it on Mondays, 9 o'clock. All right, now let's talk about the two mechanisms. Let's skip that. So chemically, hormones come in two types, okay? Now let's think about this. Now, I'm going to make mine because I got some rock stars from FP1 in here. Okay, you ready for another question from FP1? Yeah, remember this stuff builds. What were the four chemical compounds that everything is made out of in living organisms? Oh my God. Carbohydrates, good job. And what did you say? Okay, now you were thinking about the four elements, right? Now I didn't say elements, but what were the four types of chemicals that were made out of? Remember? Proteins, right? And sugars. Everything. Oh, here's a cuss word, right? I'm going to cuss today. Organic are sugars, proteins, fats, and nucleic acids. So I got the two of y'all. Hey, I've done this before, waited 8 minutes for somebody to say one of them. Just sit here. Silence. I ain't got time for silence for the video, right? I've already told too many stories. So all of our, remember, we're made out of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, right? And so organic means what? Carbon-based life organisms, right? So we animals are carbon-based. We're made out of carbon. And the four carbons are sugars, which we use for energy, proteins, which are for muscle and for also energy, right? And enzymes and stuff like that. Nucleic acids are what? DNA, right? And RNA for information storage, right? And fats is from the stomach for energy storage. Well, come to find out, what if I told you that there are two main groups of hormones? They are the protein or protein derivative hormones, which include some that are real all proteins, like 100, 200 amino acids, some that are just 1 or 2 amino acids, okay? And then there's this group that's made out of a fat. Now, if you remember, in fats, we had triglycerides and all that, but there was a special group of fats called steroids that were what? 4 ring structures stuck together, remember? So come to find out, hormones either are protein-like derivatives, main group, that's the biggest group, or steroid hormones, okay? You with me? Now, guess which one likes water? I love y'all. She said it too. Proteins like water, so they're hydrophilic. Excuse me. It's not cold. I got something stuck in my throat. So the hydrophilic, water-loving ones are the proteins, and y'all all know that oil and water don't mix, right? So steroids are hydrophobic. Okay, so would it surprise anybody in this room? By the way, good job. That there are two mechanisms on how hormones work. There are two ways they work. There's the protein way that likes water but don't like fats. And then there is the steroidal fat way to affect the cell. Am I making sense? Okay, now watch. Let's take a look. I'm going to cut to the chase. So, okay, now here's another one. What is the cell membrane made out of? Remember, y'all had to draw it and y'all had to write this one down. A phospholipid bilayer. What are phospholipids? 2 fatty acids and a glycerol, remember? And remember, you know, and so that's a fat. So which one do you think can go through that? The hydrophobic steroids. Steroids go through the cell membrane, go right into the nucleus and turn genes on and off. The non-steroidal protein mechanism, the hydrophilic, that like water but don't like fat, they can't get in, so they have to bind to a receptor on the surface of the cell. Look at that. Here it is. So the protein, and I get confused, hydrophilic, water-loving, protein-like hormones bind to receptors, trigger an internal event that leads to the production of ATP being converted into a chemical called cyclic AMP. Now, of the 32 hormones or so, about 20 of them use this mechanism. They bind to receptor and we trigger a second messenger, and the second messenger is cyclic AMP. The first messenger was the hormone, and that triggers internal cells to turn on and do their thing. Okay, cause whatever the cell is supposed to be doing to do it based on that hormone. Okay. Now, how many of y'all know somebody that's diabetes type 1? These are people who don't make insulin, right? Or have insulin problems. They have to take insulin. Do they take a pill for that? No. Because guess what insulin is? Insulin is a protein derivative. So the pill would be destroyed in the digestive system. What do they have to do? They have to inject they have to inject insulin into them, or they have an insulin pump that puts it in their bloodstream. So now this kind of makes sense, right? Y'all learning something, right? Insulin is a protein derivative, so it has to be put in the bloodstream. You ever wonder why they can't take a pill for that? Okay, haven't figured that one out yet, right? Okay, now how many of y'all have ever had a bee sting and you bought hydrocortisone and rubbed it on it? That's a steroid. That's cortisol. And so steroids go through the skin and you just rub it on, it goes into the nucleus. Matter of fact, here we go. Look, here's how steroids will work. Look at that. They don't bind the receptor. They go right through the cell membrane. They go through the nuclear envelope, go into the nucleus, bind the receptors, turn genes on, make a protein be made. Or in the case of girls, I'm talking about male, it's a steroid, it's that testosterone made me go hair last time. I shaved this morning for y'all. That's what happened on my face this morning with testosterone.
So does the steroid hormone, does it like kick in faster than a protein hormone?
Okay, good point there on that one. And they're varied. Okay, so they would probably in general yes, but the point is hormones are slower to respond to the nervous system, but they last longer. Sometimes they last a long time. So when you get scared, you produce adrenaline. You don't need no coffee. You drive 3 or 4 hours. Now you're scared of that. You run off the road and did the loop-de-loop and didn't hurt anything and come back on the road, right? Okay, so yeah, so your point of your question, I do think there's some truth to that. I think we see they would probably be faster than the non-steroid. Okay, so question 3, I'm answering question 3 here. Oh, wait, no, I'm down on number 3. Describe in detail the difference in the mode of action of the hydrophobic protein basic type and hydrophilic, the steroid group of fat mode of action. Now, which one of these would be more dangerous if they're laying around the house? Steroid, right? Okay, a lot of women push menopause, not trying to be dirty, I'm just getting real, but maybe your mom and dad are having marital problems. Mom don't want dad, don't want anybody. Okay? A lot of women go through push menopause, lose all their sex drive. Guess what one of the treatments is? I had a friend of mine, who was a little bit overweight. She went to the doctor because she just didn't have any desire, sex desire. The doctor told her, lose some weight. It was a male doctor. You can go to a female doctor in Memphis and they will prescribe you testosterone and you rub it on, you rub it on your genitals. And things got really exciting after that for them. Okay. So, I mean, before you lose your marriage, right? Mom and dad get divorced, maybe she should go to the doctor and have her levels of testosterone level checked. Because that's what controls the sex drive in boys and girls. So this is very powerful stuff, right? And so, how many of y'all got a dad that's going bald and he takes the testosterone and gets a roll-on under the arm? They put it on roll-on, but they just like the odor. Y'all heard of that? See, I'm blowing y'all about that. So, if a male don't have testosterone levels up, you can get replacement. Now, the danger of taking replacement testosterone is you quit making it. So our body quits making things that you replace with. See, this is how addiction works, right? So you take heroin and you quit making the body's own pain receptors, and the heroin is your pain, is your hormone to help you cool it off. And so that's how addiction works. Okay. But anyway, so anytime you take a drug to replace something your body's making, that has a possible problem on the back end as your body quits making that. But for insulin, ain't no problem because you ain't making none, right? So that's not a problem with insulin with diabetes because they have to have the insulin. Okay. This is a big deal. Okay. By the way, this was discovered when I was just about y'all's age. So when I got over to OS, I saw this for in the textbook. So these guys and women, I think it was mainly men, won the Nobel Prize for discovering how hormones work. Lipitor and all these drugs we now lower cholesterol and stuff get their basis on learning this system on how this works. So that we now have drugs that can make these systems work better. And this is how your non-steroids, protein, and there are a couple of nucleotides, but there are a couple of nucleic acid ones. But basically, everybody that's not steroid works this way, and the steroid ones go straight in and turn on the gene. And we've discovered about 3 or 4 other second messengers, including cyclic GMP and some others, IP3, that are chemicals made by the hormone binding inside the cell. But that's a big deal, and that was a Nobel Prize, and this was discovered back in the 90s. All right, so there we go. So hydrophobic, right? Okay, love fat, hate hair, they can go through, and hydrophilics, you have to go through the other way. And so back on, I asked this question like there. Look at that. Effects of hormones. Stimulate secretion from endocrine or exocrine cells, activate enzymes, stimulate, inhibit mitosis, open and close channels, activation of genes, can turn genes off. There's a lot of ways they can work. Okay. hormonal interaction, they have synergism, all work together. Okay, and how do you think we control most of these? They have a half-life, they will slowly be destroyed in the body, so they don't last forever. Well, regulation is usually negative feedback, okay? Now, y'all remember us talking about that back in AP1? Negative feedback says if I'm making substance A, once I make enough of it, then something needs to tell me to quit making A. We don't waste a lot of our time in our body making things we don't need. So almost all these systems, how the chemical goes back to the gland that makes it and tells it to quit making it when the levels get high enough. So negative feedback, there's only, actually I'll talk about in a minute, there's only maybe 2 positive feedbacks in the endocrine system that we know of, and I may get to one of them today. There's only 2 cases where you make a little bit and the body goes, ooh, let's make more, and more, and more, and more, and that leads to childbirth, okay? So oxytocin goes up and up and up till you choke the kid out of your vagina, okay? With a doctor or a nurse there catching it, right? Okay. The alien is coming out one way or the other, right? Or it's going to be a really bad day, right? But that one is one of the rare ones that's a positive feedback, okay? But usually it's negative feedback in the body. So we get these feedback loops, and there it is showing it. So if you get too low, we make it, and then we cut it off if we make too much. Okay, so let's dive into the first one. And our first thing we're going to look at, I'm going to get a picture up here, is the hypothalamus in the brain. Okay, now if you look right here in the brain, this is a really big endocrine, so this is a big one here. This hypothalamus pituitary. Now, if you can remember, I'm going to say a couple of cuss words from last semester. Celeturcia. Remember the little Turkish saddle? That is where the pituitary gland sits. So if you have pineal problem, they go in through your throat, in through your mouth. They never go through 3rd, 4th, 8th grade high school. They don't cut up through the brain. They come in through the mouth. The hypothalamus is this part of the brain right here, where it looks like a cherry on a stalk, right? Or like a cherry on a stalk. The stalk actually connects the brain to the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland has 2 lobes: a frontal lobe that's bigger, called the anterior lobe, and a back lobe called the posterior lobe. So we're going to spend quite a bit of time, probably the rest of our lecture, right here talking about these. Okay, super important. So a lot of times the brain is in control of the endocrine system, but the endocrine system allows all the cells to be told something without running a nerve to it. That's my first question is answered again. Okay, let's blow this up a little bit more. And you can tell there's a front lobe called the anterior pituitary. Now, y'all remember in our biology, we got to confuse everything. So here's the Latin name, adenohypophysis, means front lobe, and neurohypophysis means back lobe. Now, why they name this a neuro is this. The posterior lobe on a microscope slide is a continuation of the brain. It is nerve tissue. So when you look at this under a microscope, it is a continuation of the brain. So the posterior lobe is nerve tissue. The anterior lobe is epithelium that looks like blackberry jelly to me under a microscope. And there are like 6 different cells in here that make 6 different hormones. So we're going to see 5 or 6 hormones in the anterior and 2. Now here's really bad, evil OCD multiple choice questions. The 2 posterior hormones are released here, but they're actually made in the hypothalamus and carried down a axon, a duct tubing, and are stored and released in the posterior lobe, but they're actually made in the hypothalamus. I would not ask that on the test, although other teachers have had that on their test. I think that's really evil, you know what I'm saying? And so what I would do too, sometime this weekend, is make a list of note cards for all the hormones. On one side, list them, and on the back, where they come from and what they do. That's the main thing once you get out of this chapter, other than the question we just answered, right? Is who makes this hormone and what does that hormone do? So a little bit of memorization. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I think I told y'all this. Oh, I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for taking me part. I know I didn't tell y'all that, but it does mean a lot to me. And I know some of y'all, it took me because you enjoy my class. That means a lot to me. But some of y'all don't know me yet. But I'm gonna be very fair, and generally I am more age than everybody else. But if you don't do your work, you're gonna fail. Okay, so it's like, we ain't got time for that, right? Nurses school don't need nobody that can do their work, right? That's just not so. And I know in 2, we got nothing but really usually good students. But this is so important to learn these. You should learn these, and we didn't get this in high school. I did not get into consistent in high school, y'all. So really, you know how some of the people maybe that went to a real good high school seem to have an advantage in A&P1. That seems to vanish in A&P2 as we get through it. And so everybody has a little bit more even playing field, right? So keep working hard. Okay, those that had to work hard in A&P1, you're gonna just keep working and you'll be fine. But make a list of these hormones and know where they come from and what they do. Okay, now they're gonna show you something else too. Now let me show you what's crazy. Now, so if this is a continuation of the nervous system, then that makes sense how they're controlled. How do we control the anterior pituitary? Well, we've got a closed circulatory system in here where a little bit of arteries and veins carry hormones from the hypothalamus we call releasing factors down to the anti-pituitary and trigger them to release their hormones, and other hormones tell them to not release their hormones. Now for A and B, I'm not going to make you know these releasing hormones. We're going to lump them all together, and I'm not going to have them on no matching tables and stuff for multiple choice, right? But there are 10 or so releasing hormones that are only found going from the hypothalamus to the anti-pituitary and telling these cells to make or not make. And come on, you got to have one to say make it and one to say stop making it, right? So you have two of these. Okay, I'll show them to you. I'm not going to make you know them. I just want you to know these main 5 or 6 hormones that are released here that go out all to the body and do super important things, and these 2 posterior ones, okay? And that blood system is called the epiphyseal portal system. Okay, so epiphyseal portal system, and here's what it looks like. There's actually the new posterior first. So the posterior has what? Raw nerve axons that go down to the posterior lobe, and we have 2 hormones here, ADH and oxytocin. Let's just do them real quick. ADH, and look, don't freak out over abbreviations. Just learn the word. Anti-diuretic hormone. Beer is a diuretic. What happens if you drank 6 beers tonight in an hour or 2? What you gonna do? You're gonna go urinate. Yeah, you gotta do it number 2, like right now. So what do you think ADH does to your kidneys? Makes you not make urine, so it's an anti-diuretic. So it makes you retain water, so your blood pressure goes up. So one of the first things y'all gonna learn is to make, when we're gonna do a whole lot of cardiovascular, is cardiovascular system is kind of like a car tire. If you got a hole in your tire, what happens to the pressure in the tire? It goes down. So if you take diuretics and you're tinkling, your blood pressure is gonna go down. Okay? So several things control blood pressure, but one of the big ones is blood volume, right? And your water in your blood. So by urinating, we lower blood pressure. And if you have high blood pressure, which by the way, I had high blood pressure for 4 or 5 years, and I went during Christmas to my best friend, the doctor, and I had not been to his office in 5 years, and he put me on some blood pressure medicine that had no side effects, but it slowed my heart rate down, and I am not having to get up in the night and go to the bathroom anymore. Just FYI. But I say that not to be talking about my personal business, but I was so pumped up, my heart pumping so hard, I was making a lot of urine that I didn't need to make. And my blood pressure, I mean, literally, he told me if my bottom number falls anymore, to take half a pill. So I went from like 180 over 120 to 120 over 70. And it's simply because of hormone I was making that, and it actually is caused by, we don't know why, but about 80% of people who have high blood pressure, hereditary high blood pressure, what I got from my mama, it makes this hormone that we don't need to make, and this chemical blocks the hormone, angiotensin. So a $6 pill probably gonna save my life. $6 a month pill, generic, stops that hormone. It binds to the receptor it binds to, so it can't bind. Isn't that brilliant? So while ago, it just blocks that receptor where that hormone was bound. So I find that fascinating. Okay, so ADH is one of the 2 or 3 hormones that help control what? Blood pressure. Women, when you're on your period and you're losing blood, you make this to stop, you don't urinate, to stop the blood loss, right? Okay, but if you're, so in other words, if you're out running, you get real super dehydrated, you'll make this hormone, so we don't want to make no urine, because that's losing water. Then when things get leveled out and you drink some water, then that hormone level will go down. The other one, super interesting, oxytocin. Oxytocin is the main thing it does is it does trigger the contractions in the uterus that chunks the baby out. So we give women pig oxytocin to induce labor. The other thing it does, and I'm not trying to be ugly, but this is PG-13. I'm sorry, but when the baby suckles on mother's nipple, this triggers a chemical that tells the brain to release oxytocin, and oxytocin causes the nipple to become erect and the milk valves to open. Now, let me give you one I found out 25 years ago, okay? So we got our first kid, we had to have a C-section, and the baby's born like on Monday, on Wednesday, we come home Friday. So Monday, my wife decides she wants to go, we lived at outside Batesville, to go to the Food World in Batesville and get some food. Just get out, it was kind of cold like this morning, but a pretty day. So she put on her coat, I put on my coat, and we went. And my mother-in-law stayed with the baby, and we got into Food World, the old Food World in Batesville from way back. And this is, I think it's redone now. And we get over there looking at the milk and stuff, right? Or, the eggs. And a baby on aisle 2 starts screaming. Wah, wah, wah. And if you don't believe in the endocrine system, this is the classic example. My wife heard the baby crying. Her brain said the baby's hungry. Brain makes oxytocin. Oxytocin got in her bloodstream. I'm talking about it within seconds, maybe a minute. Nipples opened up, milk valve opened up, and I turned around. It looked like you poured 2 gallons of milk right on her breast. And she didn't feel it. She didn't know. So I being the wonderful husband I am, I said, let's go. We gotta go home right now. And we get in a fight. And she's like, we came to buy some groceries. We're gonna buy groceries. And I'm like, I lied. I said, I gotta go to the bathroom. I don't like public bathrooms. I'm just my own story. You know, I like to go to my bathroom if I gotta do a number 3. All of a sudden she starts screaming, like freaking out, like I'm bleeding. She thought she was bleeding out of her vagina. And that's the milk running down her pants. And she couldn't stop it, and she just lost control. She was like, ah! And I'm like, so I got a baby screaming out there, but somebody shut that baby up. Okay, I got a woman just throwing milk everywhere, freaking her out. So I just took my coat, covered her up, and we left Walgreens. We left the store. And she quit breastfeeding that day, and I hate that. If you're lactating and breastfeeding, which you should do, that's what the book tells us to do. If you hear a baby crying, you will start. You cannot control it. Okay. Actually, on the way out, I grabbed to buy some Pampers that we needed and bit them open, and we put them in her bra, put them in her shirt to catch the milk. And then I threw $20, which now I got to change that. I would throw $100 to the cash register because I was walking out. The guy said, "You just made that." I said, "Here's $20, keep the change." So they actually make liners that you can do that if you're doing that. So we have them, and we've had several of our ladies here that had babies, and you can buy a machine. You can you can pump your milk and feed the babies your milk. And I believe really the books are telling us now that you're making milk for your baby. So it's a really good idea to breastfeed because you're actually making designer milk with your DNA designing the milk for your child. So and your kids have you. So strongly encourage y'all to do that. But isn't that powerful? Okay. And to have that baby, she wouldn't go into labor. They had given her the oxytocin, so they induced her labor. So we had to give her that hormone for her to go into labor on that Monday before when the baby was born. So fascinating one here. So oxytocin. Now, somebody always goes, what does that do in human males? Well, there is some research, but we don't have a rock solid thought on this. But how many of y'all have heard of the cuddling hormone? Y'all heard about this? Okay, so how many of y'all have a boyfriend that cheated on you and left you? Okay, most of us probably. Okay. Well, maybe he don't make enough oxytocin because they have done studies with animals. They get lots of rats that they give oxytocin to, and they don't cheat on their spouse. So this is one that seems to make the male not be so stupid, okay, or at least not look around. Okay, is that not powerful? This is called the cuddling hormone in biology. Okay, now I don't know if you can't buy it, so don't go. But I'm just saying, I guess you could pour that under cereal or something. Right. Anyway, all right. So antidiuretic hormone, we just did that one. And then there it is, goes to the kidneys and causes them to what? Reabsorb water to not make urine. And oxytocin, look at that. Suckling effect causes the ejection of the milk from the milk gland. Okay? Is that not powerful stuff? You know, we got 3 minutes left. Let's see if we can, let's go back and look at the other one. Now the other one, look, here's that epiphyseal portal system. Take a look. So we're going to make 5 or 6 hormones here that are going to be under the control of these releasing hormones that go through this epiphyseal portal system to tell them to release or not release that hormone. Okay, let me get a picture. So everybody got the epiphyseal portal? That's the special blood system that carries these releasing hormones, and I'm not going to make you know, to the anteropituitary to trigger them to release or not release their hormone. Okay, let me get to this, the table that we'll see them here. So here are, once again, these are the anteropituitary hormones. Here are the releasing hormones, TRH, CRH, PRH, growth hormone, releasing hormone. These are the releasing hormones that go to the pituitary gland. Here are the pituitary glands. TSH, ACTH, prolactin, FSH, LH, and growth hormone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I did not lie. So there are 6 of them. So 6 anti-pituitary hormones that all, well, 4 or 5 of them have really big functions. Okay, let's throw a few of them out. This is for you. Then we'll go over them in more detail on Monday, and I'll have it on the PowerPoint, but I'll have it on the video for y'all. So prolactin causes the woman to make milk. No known function in men. So when you get pregnant, you start making this hormone, and your breast cells start to make milk. The mammary glands then mature and make milk for the baby to have food when it comes out. Okay, but the milk don't come in about 2 or 3 days after birth. So, but you make a protein called a food called oh my gosh. But you have a food, I forget the name of it. You have a food that comes out. It's real thick that the baby eats on until the milk comes in. Okay, so very cool. But that one doesn't seem to have a purpose in male. FSH and LH are the two sex hormones, and they actually get their name from girl, which is one of the rare cases of sexism that is in the favor of females. Follicle stimulating hormone causes the woman to pick her egg of the month to pick an egg to mature and be released. LH, luteinizing hormone, causes you to ovulate. We named it after y'all because we were studying female cycle back in the 40s and 50s. But guess what it does? It does a very important in men. FSH causes men to make sperm, and LH causes men to make testosterone. So this is the hormone that triggers men to make testosterone, which is the main male sexual hormone that makes men a little bit more muscular and in general more active, more bigger. We know all that, right? Don't get me wrong. Look, I would just love to see Ashton play in the NBA. I think it'd be great to have a woman shoot basketball in the NBA. Because there's got to be a woman that can shoot as good as Stephen Curry, right? And Stephen Curry doesn't look very manly, does he? If you put a wig on him, he's a good-looking girl, right? I'm just saying. There's got to be a woman that can play NBA basketball, right? No, that'd be the biggest thing ever. I want to be her agent, right? But I'm just saying. But generally, men are more athletic than women as far as the world-class athletes. Ashton would whoop my butt at basketball. Okay, but anyway. But that's that one. So we're going to cover those later in the reproductive chapter, but we got to mention them here. Okay. Now, the other three are kind of interesting, real quickly. Growth hormone causes all the cells to grow. If you don't get this, you're a dwarf. If you get too much dietism, that's a big one. ACTH controls the adrenal cortex. I'm going to save that for Monday. TSH hits the thyroid and controls thyroxine, which controls your metabolic rate. Let me tell you how important this one is. And if I want to end this on, we got this to say, well, it's time to go. But let me end with this one. I was y'all's age working with rats in grad school, and I had to do a blood workup, and all my blood come back normal except that one. And it said that one was abnormal. When I went and checked it, it was below normal. And that means you're going to wear husky pants and be short, fat dude. If you know somebody that's always full of energy, that's real thin, that eats 400,000 calories a day, can't gain any weight, their thyroid hormone levels are high. They have high levels. And so you can eat all the time and never gain weight. And so that's how we're different. So your cellular metabolism, that girl, that guy that eats all the time, their engines are, and mine's like, based on that hormone. This is the hormone that controls your metabolic rate. Good stopping point. Y'all have a good day. We'll pick up right here on Monday, and I'll put that tape up to y'all. All right. Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much. Appreciate y'all. Stop. I think the recording has stopped. We're going to end that one.